Yes, the music is quite on point. That is courtesy of Unique, the DJ. And he will be having a set, you know, ambayo tu sasa ni kumix tu na kukatika tu. So get your dancing shoes ready. After this conversation that I'm about to have, we are going to be dancing. Now, right now, allow me to introduce you to two other lovely ladies. By the way, leo tumekuwa tuna ladies, and I love it. Unique. Pole kidogo. But anyway, let me introduce you to these other ladies that are on set. There we have them. And on my immediate right, we have Mercy Mosetti. Mercy Mosetti is a speech therapist and a clinical child neuropsychologist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And then right next to her, we have Betty Kilonzo, who is a Kenyan writer. She's an editor and a consulting editor at eKitabu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and they have this, they're here to talk about something that is very interesting. You know, it's something that maybe we don't really think about much, but it's a conversation that should be had. So you have a manual that you've written. It's called the House Help Manual. You know, the ladies who help us at home with doing house chores and doing this or that and helping with the children. You've written a manual specifically for that. And I want us to just get into understanding why the idea of that. So if we may just begin from there. Betty, why the House Help Manual? What triggered you?
Well, the House Help Manual was inspired by all my own experiences when I was onboarding a new house help. The training process and just the orientation process. Sometimes I'd find myself maybe forgetting to brief them on some things about the house, or even when I'm interacting with the house help, sometimes I might come and then something has not been done in the house, and then when I ask, why did you not do this, they say, oh, I forgot. And I kept being like, well, if only there was a manual, it would be so easy for communication, for how we run the house. When they forget, they can always refer to a manual. And also there's just so much that goes into a house, and I feel it's not easy for one person to just remember all of these things without a very clear guide on how to do these things. You know, there's just so much that goes into a house. Also, I was a former flight attendant, and in my job we had a manual. We had a cabin crew manual that listed out everything that you need to do in the aircraft, and having that manual really helped me a lot in my work and duties as a cabin crew. And I realized my work was simple because I had this manual. If I need to know about first aid, if I need to know about checks of the aircraft, I can always refer to my manual. And even my head of in-flight or even my managers at work, if maybe I've not done my duties, my manual held me accountable, whereby they can always ask me, why did you not do your checks? I cannot go and tell them I forgot, because I have my manual and I have it every day. And I'm supposed to refer to that manual every day, and it clearly states that I need to do my checks. So having that manual is holding you accountable. So even in the house, I felt that we need something to hold us accountable, both the employer and the house help. So that is when I say, I was just thinking if there was a manual. Then I remembered I'm a writer, and even though I mostly specialize in fiction, I thought to myself, why can't I be the one to write this book? So I decided, if you want a book and it's not on the shelf, you know, you write the book that you want.
I love that. I love that. Create the solution.
Yes,
for yourself.
Yeah.
And you know, this is where now you're coming in, Mercy. Also, you know, still in line with that, because someone may wonder, okay, well, then why we're talking about house helps? Then now we have a speech therapist. You know, where do they intertwine? And they actually do correlate, because when you talk about the domestic workers we have in the homes, the ladies who help with one thing or the other, they are also the ones who look after our young ones, you know, that are in that house. So maybe how important, or what is their role when it comes to the child's speech?
Okay, when it comes to their role in speech, for instance, most of the kids now, when they're starting to develop, that's when we are helping them acquire speech. And now the house help now plays a big role, because when you're trying to get a house help, you have to find out which language they speak, so that for us as speech therapists, when you're helping them acquire language, you don't have to mix the languages. So if you get, for instance, a house help that speaks Luya, and your child is not a lawyer. And when it comes to acquiring speech, we usually decide, you decide on one language. So you'll decide, do I want my child to learn Kiswahili? Do I want my child to learn English? But now what helps us is that in future, or in the schools that they'll go to, they'll always learn English. Like English is their basic language. So we have to set like a standard in my house, we are speaking English. So that we don't have to mix the languages, Luya, English, and maybe the parents are Kisi. So if you mix the three languages together, it will be so hard for the child to acquire language. So that's where it comes in. And also now with the special kids, you'll find that some of them, we can say in a mere language, they'll refer them to as Kichongumu, or Kichongumu, putting in mind that it's not Kichongumu. It's because you don't understand how they are. Maybe they have sensitive issues. So when you have a house help that understands that this is not Kichongumu, it's because my child is special, it will be even easier for you to help them. Because there's a time that you'll have conflict resolutions. How will you, or how will you punish your child or the house help? Because you'll find that maybe they've had conflict in the house. So if the house help understand that this child is special, maybe there's an approach that will help our approach when we're having conflicts. Yeah, so that's another area we need to focus on. Yeah.
Is this something that maybe you have considered as well, you know, even in your writing?
Well, the speech and yes, relationship. There's a part of the book in the manual. It discusses about relationships between the house help and the children, and even the general everybody that is inside the house. Because if you're going to have a good relationship, communication is key, and speech is part of communication. It's not just about even the language. It's not just about you know, your house help is a different tribe from you. It's also about how they communicate with respect, you know. There have been cases where you find maybe the house help may be rude towards the child. That brings up behavioral issues even with the child, you know, because when you're away at work, you don't know how this house help is talking to the child, you know. So if a child is brought up being constantly criticized or being spoken in a certain way, even by people who are taking care of them, they grow up with low self-esteem issues, they just develop, and kids are very delicate, you know. And so if you're bringing in a house help, you want to be very keen on the communication, you want to be keen on the relationship, you want to be keen forget even about what the house help is saying to the kid, even what the house help is saying to the people maybe she's talking to on the phone. You know, she could be on the phone and somebody is making her mad and she's now using curse words in front of the kids. Or she could start talking about sensitive issues, maybe sex and or you know, a lot of things, sexuality or religion, you know, introducing ideologies to a child, and you're not there to supervise, because this is almost like the primary caregiver when you're at work most of the time. So yes, we have talked about that in the book, about relationships and boundaries. So it's like, if you're a house help, it is good to understand professionalism and to also know that you need to handle kids with kindness, consideration, and you should also learn what your employer allows in their house. You know, if you realize that in this house kids don't get yelled at, please don't go with your anger issues to other people's houses. You know, and the manual reminds you of that. Yes.
All right, we'll get back to that. Let's take a break right now, and then we'll get back to our conversation. And we are back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's go back to our conversation. You know, you were just talking about the fact that, you know, like even when it comes to communication around the house with the helps in the home and the children and all of that, that is also something that should be key and should be looked into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can just maybe finalize on that.
Yeah, well, like we're saying, it's really delicate, the issue about house helps, and I feel like sometimes as families, we take it as a casual thing, you know. When you're hiring a house help, you don't do a good background check on them. You know, we just, unlike other companies, you know, where they do good interviews from different people who are aspiring for the position. However, sometimes somebody just goes down to Shago, grabs the first girl that they see, brings them to Nairobi, and then you start wondering why your child needs therapy, you know. But you need to have somebody that understands the development of a child and what a child needs and all of this. So that's why the manual is very, you know, talks about that, because, and also it's good because this manual was designed as a booklet. It's actually not big and too big, and it's written in very simple English, nothing jargons, no jargons, no. Because we wanted it to be not just for the employer but also for the house help, something that you can place on the TV stand or on the table where it's very within reach for them to go through it, so that when you come home and you find somebody was yelling at the kid, or maybe the kid starts developing some weird vocabulary, they suddenly, it's not even just about curse words, it's also about even, let's say, ghetto talk, right? Maybe you come home and your kid is saying, yule dem, ama anaita watu morio. You see, and maybe in your household, that's not how you want to bring up your child, you know? Yeah, like there was a time, I have a son, he's 6 years old, and there was a time my son, he was hanging out with some kids and then comes back home and then he tells me, Mom, you know, kuna huyu dem. And I was like, you're 6 years. They're called girls. Don't call them them. You know, by the time maybe you grow up, you start calling me mom, those words. What is the word? You know, those words that they call mothers. They call mokoro. I was like, you start calling me mokoro or something. No, I don't want that language in my house. No, I want you to grow up as proper gentlemen. So I had to trim that. So communication is broad. It's broad, and it's something that's developing, you know, so you teach these people, because these people are coming in, you know, you as a parent, you already know how you want to raise your child. But when you bring in someone in, now you have to teach them and tell them, this is how I want my child to be brought up.
Okay, all right. Maybe you can also weigh in on that, on just the importance, you know, of looking at who is around your home, who is raising your child, because most times the parent or the actual caregiver or guardian that is not at home. So the caregiver is the person you've left at home to watch over your child.
Just to add on that, and actually I loved her point for just picking somebody from the village, basing it on now the special kids. With our kids, let's say the autistic kids, you'll find that they'll imitate anything, any slight. If it's your tone, they'll imitate, they'll copy your tone. At a point, if you're using a high tone, they'll do that. Even the cartoon tone, even your walking style. So if you bring a house up from now the village, whatever language she'll use, they'll imitate that. Whatever word they'll use, it will stick in their mind. And then now for them, because you're conditioning the brain to this. So if the child hears this and this lots of the time, we are conditioning the brain to, this is the word that I'm used to, and it's not a bad word, so I'll be saying it. So also, we need to focus on, if you're bringing somebody, it's somebody that actually is intellectually, it's a bit, she's a bit high or a bit high, so that even when you're conversing with them, you'll be like, don't use these words, because if you're not intellect, even when you're telling them this word you're not supposed to be using, they'll be like, kwa nini nistumie hii jina, and maybe at the village I'm using it. So we should be very keen, because our special kids, they copy anything, any slight change. And for us, when you're conditioning the brain, now again reversing the changes that I've taken in the brain will be so hard.
So that's why it's very crucial for you to ensure that the person you're leaving at home, you know, to look after your kids when you're not there, is someone you've really also just taken your time to look into who they are and all of that. All right. As we almost come to a conclusion of the conversation, I would love for you to talk a bit about, you know, maybe a bit of the legal side of it when it comes to the story of the minimum wage of these wonderful people that we have in our homes, and also the treatment, you know, how you get to treat these people in your house.
Well, thank you. Now, okay, so this is what I say. Whether you want it or not, your house is a small company, you know. The same way here you've got contracts, you've got agreements, you've got all of this. Any place where money is being exchanged, that's a business, and it is subject to the laws, the labor laws, and you know, as much as we Kenyans sometimes we want to pretend, you know, it's learned helplessness, you know, we want to feign ignorance so that we don't have to take responsibility. We do know that there is a wage, there is a stipulated minimum wage for domestic workers, and we know that when you're paying them below that minimum wage, we know that we're breaking the law, and we also know that we're exploiting these people just because of their conditions or whatnot and all of that. And that is why people don't want to go to, let's say, bureaus where the house helps have been trained and they know their rights and they know what they're worth. They prefer to go down to the village and get a girl who maybe is a not even Form 4, because a Form 4 dropout, that is somebody who knows exactly what they're worth. They want to go get maybe like a Class 7 dropout, somebody who's very naive, bring them to this town, and then when you come home and find this person blew up your entire house because they cannot you know, operate a washing machine or a microwave, they microwaved the egg, now you want to shout everywhere, you know. And when they're stressing you out because maybe they beat up your kid or they did something uncouth, I'm going to use that word, uncouth, you know. Now you want to play the victim and you want to say, oh, houses are so crazy, they're so difficult to manage, but you're the one who is going for the difficult people. Why don't you do this? Why don't you go for trained people? Why don't you go for people that you actually sit down, draft a contract and have an agreement, you know? Why don't you pay people what they're worth? Because honestly, let's say for example, let's give a very illegal you know, wage, like 6,000, right? If you're paying your house up 6,000 a month, how much is that per day? You know, and you expect this person to be awake, to do the dishes, the laundry, everything. It's a lot of work inside the house, you know. You're demanding a lot from this person and you want to pay them 2,200 shillings per day, sorry. And then when this person is frustrated and starts spitting in your coffee, now you want to say, oh, she's so crazy. No, she's not crazy. She's a frustrated person. You see, when workers are they're oppressed, they act out, okay? They act out, they strike. Even you've seen even nurses and doctors. How many doctor strikes have we had? And just the other day, I saw this news in, I think it's the Daily Nation, where a house help went and sued their employer, former employer, because they just fired them over a text, you know, as if somebody's breaking up with you. Actually, I think when somebody breaks up with you, you should sue them. No, but that was very unprofessional. That's very unprofessional. And she sued. And this lady was given, I think, like 140,000 plus. So now imagine this. If you had just offered them a very wonderful, like 1 month the notice period, you just offer them the notice period like you're supposed to, and given them their wages like you're supposed to, trust me, you wouldn't have had to lose 140,000 in a court case, you know. So here you are paying below minimum. If this lady at some point gains awareness, of which they do, you know, you're going to be spending even more than you thought you were saving by paying them below minimum. Or if this lady does something to the house to endanger your child or your property or just the well-being of the house, and even the emotional stress, you know, when you are stressed in the house because the house help cannot do their duties the way they're supposed to, you also cannot work properly like you're supposed to. You don't have the freedom to explore your other things. You'll be rushing from home to work, all the time you're on the phone. Did the baby do their homework? Did the baby do this? You're stressed out because your house help is incompetent because you took a house help that is not professional. So you end up paying in other ways which are very expensive. So I usually recommend, and I know economy is tough, but then again, economy is not tough to just you, Vivian. Economy is tough to me and to the house help as well. So imagine this house help that we're paying 6,000. Maybe you earn in, let's say, 50,000, right? With your 50,000, you already feel the economy stuff. Now imagine her with the 6,000, how she's feeling. It's worse. And you need to also look at the emotional and psychological, you know, needs of people. These house helps, they're not machines. They are human beings. And you bringing her into your home to work for you, it's not a favor. Some people think it's a favor. You think, oh, I saved you from poverty. No, you didn't. She was looking for a job and you happen to be an employer. Treat her with professionalism, offer her a contract and give her a good wage.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you've put it out, that, you know, this is a profession like any other.
Yes, it is.
That is their job.
Very respectable,
you know?
actually.
Yes, so it should be dignified.
It should be.
For sure.
You're leaving this person in the house with your child all day long. You know, they're taking care. Actually, it's the most intimate of jobs. In fact, I always feel like if there's an employer who should be very careful how they treat the employees, it is the person who is employing a house help. Because this person sees you in your towel, this person sees you when you're sick, this person knows all your mood swings. You know, here we see this poised lady, but your house help saw you today with no makeup. You know, she sees you in your most vulnerable state. She's your family. She's almost like family.
She is family.
Yes, and then now you want to treat her badly and then leave her there with all of your valuables and go to work, and you come back and your valuables are still intact. What if one day she gets mad from all of this and decides to run away with all your TV?
Stop giving ideas. But anyway,
just think about it.
I get your point.
Yes,
I get your point completely.
You know, like you see the videos doing rounds sometimes where you see like a house help went and was beating up the kid, or they do horrible things to the children, and then you wonder what could have pushed a person to do those things. I'm not saying that the employers...
You can't justify that.
Yes,
though.
I'm not saying that the employers did anything, but I'm saying some of these things can be saved when we try to create a conducive environment in the home. And also, it's you can even see the signs of frustration. You know, like let's say maybe you are in the house, you try to correct her, and then you see she's behaving in a certain way. You can always see those signs. And for those, I always say, you know, when you have like the house help manual and you have that professional setting, you can always feel when signs of aggressions start to come up, right? You can see the way she's talking to the child, the way she's serving you breakfast in the morning, and then you can see, okay, she's getting into a very dangerous point here, and you can sit down and talk about it. And if it's a thing you cannot solve, I always say hire and rehire. That is all I always say. Hire. You know, a lot of employers also, they feel guilty. They feel guilty because they don't want to be bad bosses. They don't want to be bad bosses. You don't want to be the person who is mistreating your house help, right? But sometimes I can tell you people have problems, their own personal problems. Maybe this person came there, they have gone through a lot of things, and it's irredeemable. And to that I always say, understand this is a job, just the same. If you came here and you are not competent for your job, you would be let go, right? Same way, if she's not competent and you've seen for real she's not competent, instead of frustrating each other and all of this, feel free to hire and rehire as much as you can until you get somebody that is compatible with what you want in your house.
All right, well spoken right there. I'll allow you now, Mercy, to give us your final remarks.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to add about now the mental health bit. Because I understand if the house help is not at the, we can say at the same mental health, she won't be able to deliver. Basing it now on the special kids part, because and for instance, we have a kid that has to feed at this time. There's some drugs that she has to feed. I'll put an example of now a cerebral palsy kid, whereby we have to know the positioning of the kid when you're feeding. And when you're hiring this house help, you'll have initially told her, this is how you're supposed to feed my child. At this position, you're supposed to mash the food of the child. But now if you work, the environment where she lives is not that convenient, you know, neglecting her doing this, maybe even eating this, usikule fruits za mtoto. So at what point will she even give these fruits to the mtoto kama yeye akuli? Ataionja aje ajue hata kama, is it okay for the baby to eat this? Mashing the food, does it have the crumbs ama iko smooth so that I can feed it to the kid? So at the point whereby your house help is at a mental state whereby she's okay, she can tell you anything, I feel she'll be able to even deliver her best. So there's no point yenye atakuwa amechanganikiwa amesahau kumash food, amepea tu mtoto any food. So ensuring the mental state of your house help is okay, that will also help in terms of the welfare of the kid. And also now in speech part, because we don't say now that the child is not talking, you won't talk to them. So if your house help is at the right mental state, you'll find her just conversing even singing for the child. That's how now speech will come in. Yeah.
All right, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Betty, for someone who maybe would love to get to know what's in that copy, would love to get the copy, where do they get to find you so that they can get it, maybe?
So on my social media, I go by Black Star Tales, Betty Kilonzo. You search Betty Kilonzo, I use my official name, and all of my pages will just come up, and yeah, from there. But the book is available at eKitabu, eKitabu books, and it will also be, very soon it's going to be available in all leading bookshops in Kenya. And yeah, we can ship wherever you are. Just go on social media, search for the House Help Manual. It's going to come. You get all the links from where you can purchase the book. Yeah, and it's going to be available there.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. So here is the manual. It's called the House Help Manual for the Kenyan Middle Class by Betty Kilonzo. So if you would love to maybe get a copy of this, you can just get to find Betty. She's mentioned where to find her on social media. Go search for her and where to get the book as well. This is where we end this conversation, and right now we officially get into that sherehe mood, so you can bet that we are about to get down. So those dancing shoes that I had mentioned about, saizi ndo masaa ya kuivaa. Catch you in a few.